clouds on fire, the air is sharp. Voices rising, breaking the dark. Hearts thump faster like a drum. The night's alive, here it comes. We got the results, the dice is cast. Feel the pull of the future past. Cheer or cry, the moment's here. History's loud, it's crystal clear. Lights are flashing, the screens are tall. Waves of hope crash through the hall. Win or lose, the story grows. Every step the nation shows. We got the results, the dice is cast. Feel the pull of the future fast. Cheer or cry, the moment's here. History's loud, it's crystal clear. Lights are flashing, the screens are tall. Waves of hope crash through the hall. Win or lose, the story grows. Every step the nation shows. We got the results, the dice is cast. Feel the pull of a future past. Cheer or cry, the moment's here. History's loud, it's crystal clear. Let's go clear. Let's go clear. Some will sigh, some will shout. Voices tangled in the doubt. But through the noise, the truth will soar.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast for a very, very interesting week. Now, I want to ask you, Laura, what has your death total for this week just been?
My death total.
Of people, either one MP who's died and anyone else you personally know. My number's at 3.
Just one for me.
Yeah. So, on the as everyone else here would know, that was it MP Takutai Tarsh Kemp passed away. Thursday morning. Later on that day, our candidate liaison Nick Hollander's nana passed away. That was expected at age 99. And then I found out on Friday. I found out today, but I think it was Friday. Warwick Halcrow from Barista Boys Waikanae, who was also half owner of the Paraparaumu Beach Market, also passed away unexpectedly, which is a really weird feeling of things coming freeze.
Shitty week all round.
Yeah. So,
hold on. There is one more death I can report on. Our economy. I was chatting with an economist earlier, just before. Our economy is so cooked, man. It's like 0.05% growth per year over the course of 20 years results in 1% growth to our GDP. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
We're so fucking cooked.
Yeah. From Kiwi Skirt there, 99. Yes, Louise didn't quite get to the 100. And that was her goal, was to get to 100 to get what was originally the card from the Queen, which is quite ironic for an American, because she was born in the United States. Now the King, but wanting to get the card. And I see Frankie has finally joined us.
Kia ora.
Hey.
Sorry, we're talking about the weird thing of deaths. my total for the week is 1 public death, as we know, and 2 private deaths on a more personal level of people I've known in the last week. It's a really weird week, and potentially I have 2 funerals to go to in the next week.
That's A, sad, Sam, but secondly, intriguing in a weird way. I want to say that.
Well,
Coincidental?
yeah. Was it Louise, Nick's Nana? It was coming. Like, I knew on Tuesday it was going to happen. But yeah, what else is followed? No, it's it's a really weird week, because I don't think I've ever had that happen. I mean, my grandma did actually have this happen. Actually, no. The better person so had it was Auntie Gwen, who lost her father and her husband a week apart. So it can happen. It can happen where you lose people you know in a very short space of time in multiple orders. So yes, that has happened where Auntie Gwen lost her father and a week later lost her husband.
Everything went to shit when Harambe died.
Yeah. And we can't blame this one on JD Vance.
No, I blame the person who shot Harambe.
Or who was behind using that person to do so.
Yeah.
I'm going to get conspiracy theory. Hi, Kiwi. Kia ora, everyone. Thank you for having me back. But, Sam, I'm so sorry. That's a lot to deal with. Not just one trauma of a death, but 2 in grieving space in a week.
Well, especially considering, like, I don't know what's going to be happening with Nara Louise. I have been told there might be 2 different ceremonials, one for the family directly and then one for the household, and I'm kind of treated as an extension of the household. So that one's in there, but Warwick's one's the one that's probably likely to, potentially be huge because of the fact that he was so well known within the, Kapiti Coast community. He, when you run the market, and I think they had their 30th anniversary this year.
Oh.
I think it's like 30, it's either 25 or 30 years, it's one of the 2. That they had this year as well, with him and Kevin, who have concurrently ran it all the way through. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen there. That's one of I'm going to be texting Damien and finding out, because he's the one who runs Newtown Market, the one I'm part of. Which actually Warwick was the one who got me into Newtown and Johnsonville Market.
So this week, just as a tally, we lost a really cool MP, we lost a nice old lady, and we lost a really good barista. Man,
I know.
Funny, mate. Also, like, when's it gonna end this week? Like,
I don't know, but I can say for Takutai Tarsh Kemp, she followed in the footsteps of the late Queen Elizabeth II, and I believe she was in. Now, I'm not sure she was in Parliament's chamber on Wednesday, but her last speech in Parliament was on Tuesday. Yeah.
It's giving me like a. It's giving you like a.
You think about that, because what did Queen Elizabeth do 2 days before her death?
Ate marmalade sandwiches. What did she do? Drink tea?
Swear in the new British Prime Minister Liz Truss. That was her last official gig,
right.
And that was.
I feel like that's what she would have wanted, though.
That's Elizabeth working till the day. Like, I heard apparently there was a 6 staff member in the kitchen at Balmoral. That's the Scottish one, and she went down on like the day of her death or the day before. She went down and wanted to check how this particular staff member was going as well. So the official part, you see, but the non-official part was that she, the Queen, went down and checked on, was still checking on her staff.
But was she checking out of love, like aroha?
Yes, it's love, care, and it's like, yeah.
Or was it off with your head because my tea was too strong?
No. It was more of you're injured or you're sick. That was how Elizabeth II was. She had her own personal charm that was, going on.
But do you think, like, reincarnation, do you believe in that?
I believe it can happen, yes.
Yeah, same.
I wouldn't sit there and say in every single situation, but I do believe it does happen.
Yeah, me too. I believe in that.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you, Laura?
Mine's a bit. My thought about after death is a little bit more abstract. I believe that it may be somewhat more depressing, but I don't think our spirits come back.
Okay,
I think we get recycled.
Would that be reincarnation though? Recycling?
I mean, if I died tomorrow and I was buried in the ground, parts of me would end up in a tree. Other parts of me would end up in worms somewhere. Another part of me would end up in probably someone's body somehow.
Have you read
I give it that part there is the organ donation part to help keep someone else alive.
Of course, naturally, yes, I am an organ donor.
But do you think that people might just a little bit be like, but we really need this heart though? Do you think they might just be like a little bit like,
oh, they can take my heart. I'm not going to be needing it where I'm going.
Do you think they would wait till the exact last minute, or do you think they go, look, she's 40, she's got no kids or life, she's just on TikTok?
No, they won't do that. They won't do that to Laura.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, how do you know about my personal life?
No, I was thinking about myself. I was thinking about myself, Laura.
So she's got no kids, she's got no life. Just take her heart. And I'm like, yeah. Do that. I have no need for my heart.
They might just go, let's give it to this law student that's only 20. You know, I have a fear of that. I'm not sure, like, what the criteria is.
You've got to be pronounced clinically brain dead.
Yeah, no, I would be okay. I don't.
It's a very, very narrow window to do everything in as well.
They can take my brain too. I don't need it when I'm gone.
I don't think anyone wants mine. They'll be like, got anything?
Yeah. That's me.
If you want to go all scientific sci-fi, it could end up as part of Cyberman on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
If you could get frozen, okay, off subject, but if you could get frozen and be like thawed out in 1,000 years time, would you do it?
Nah, just turn me into compost. Get it over and done with.
I don't know.
The same.
I don't know. It's a really weird one. It's one of curiosity says yes, but maybe not.
I feel like I can't keep up with the hip kids as it is at 40, so I just feel like 1,000 years from now, it's going to be worse for me, so...
Yeah. Okay, let's get to...
sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's get to the prayer of Parliament on Thursday, then followed by the speeches there. Let's kick it off.
Wahi o mātou pānga whai ora katoa ki te taha, ka mihi mātou ki te kingi me te inoi atu. Mo te arihitanga I roti o mātou whakaaroarohanga. Kia mōhio ai, kia whakeeti ai tā mātou whakahaere I ngā take o te wharenei. Mo te oranga, te maungarongo me te aroha o Aotearoa. Āmeni.
Members, it's my sad duty to inform the House of the death of our colleague Takutai Tarsh Kemp ONZM. Takutai represented the election of Tamaki Makaurau as a member of Te Pāti Māori. During her time in Parliament, quite apart from constituency obligations, she served on the Social Services and Community Committee. I extend my sympathy and prayers to her whānau and acknowledge her contribution to public life in New Zealand. I also extend my sympathy to Te Pāti Māori members who are today supporting her whānau in Tamaki Makaurau. I call on the Honourable Tamapota.
Okay, and then we'll switch over to this one here. And we'll start off with Tamapotaka's.
Now, before you kick off, a little fun fact. It's actually not that fun, but here's a fact. Tama is a whanaunga. He's a direct relative of Takutai. They're cousins.
Okay, I did not know that. I learned something today. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
And I think our audience also learned something as well. Okay, let's kick it off.
Ki te tua iwi roa o te motu nei, tō tāua iwi roa pai maunga o Ruahine. Kia haere atu koe ki te rei, ki te reina. Koira hoki ngā wāhi, whakawawāhi wairua o tātou mātua tupuna. He uri koe nā te ahi kārua o te puko o te ika tai atu ki te tūkūrai o Taranaki. He mārei kura nā ngā kāwai te pairu, te hika kahukare, te aitanga rongo maitara, nā te tama kōpiri. Ko ia hoki ngā uri, I māre nātu I moitahi atu ki ngā iwi take o te puko o te ika, ko Ngāti Hotu, ko Ngāti Whatu Mamua, ko Nuku Te Aio, ko Haumoi Tahanga, me ngā iwi o tērā wāhi o Mōkai Pātea. Tai atu ki oku ake o takirau, haere koe ki te takitini. Tātou ngā uri whakatupu, ngā uki whakatupu, o ngā whenua e takatakahi te ope kātua o Aotearoa. Tai atu ki a ōrua matua kai manawa, ki a rangipō waiu, ki te riu o puanga e rā o ngā wāhi o tātou mātua tupuna. E taku kaku kahu tātara āre ki Tawaroa. Pōrua mai tō mata rarama ki tēnei ao. Ina nahi i konei koe, i tēnei rā kei whē koe. Ko ngā puti puti e whakatinana me te haki o te Pāti Māori e whakamākona i tō tūru haere, haere, ngunguru atu te pō ki o tāua tupuna ki te pō. Ko ki te huki kua whakararangi mai, i tō mātou he mana, māngai hoki, i etihi o ngā takataka-hitanga i whāia e koe. Ko koe, te kai whakahaere o te kāhui kanikani. Te rangatira o ngā rangatahi. E roto i o mahi ki manu rewa, tai atu ki ngā mahi ki tērā wahine rongonui kanikani o Aotearoa, i kanikani atu i te taha Justin Bieber, ko koe ke tōna taha. Engari, ko ngā mahi o te ahi kāroa, i kawe atu koe ki manu rewa. Kia kā hoki te ahi ki te taitunga o Tāmaki Makaurau me mihi ka tika. Me mihi ka tika e enei tini āhuatanga kua pā atu ki a koe. Ki mai te kōrero, ki mai tō kōrero, i roto i tō tauaki tuatahi. Te whai mai ngā kōrero a tautaina mo enei āhuatanga o te whakataunga tiriti mo mokai pātea. Whakahukia mai tōku whenua tōku whakapapa, kia whakapiki ai tōku whānau me tōku wairua. I ki anga kōrero hoki e whakakena nei, e whakawehi nei, i te hinengaro a tēnā iwi o mōkai pātea, ko koe te whakatinanatanga o te kreime nui. Kei te tārewa tonu te wā, o tāku kia me te kaura, kia te reo wā. Engari, takutai, whaiwhai nei i tō ingoa, te manaaki te moana, te manaaki te whenua. Nā reira koe hoki, ka ki mai te kōrero ki te manaaki koe i te whenua, ka manaaki te whenua i a koe. Nā reira, tēnā koe me o tupuna, me ngā piringa whakapapa i Wainganui a Tāua, arā ngā uri a i hākara te raro me te pai o te rangi. Koia, ko Shannon Halbert, ko hariki rā wāhi titi paku hararai. Tō Tāua kōkō rangi, tōhunga, Jay Wilson, tai atu ki te auwahine, ki taku auwahine, ki taku tuahine, Sky, mi hana ki a koe peni, me tō Tāua whanaunga Pākehā nei a Willie Jackson te uri a Backley nei. Nā reira, ko koe hoki ki au nei, te raurangi Māori o te Pāti Māori. Whakamākoni te nākau, engari tēnei wā whakaroi mata i te karu. Whakapauri hoki i te hinengaro whakaaro. Ki mai te kōrero a tō tātou kingi tūheitia, o te tau te whero te tuawhitu. Amohia ake te ora o te iwi ki puta tātou ki te whaiau ki te ao marama. Nau anō i hiki i tērā kianga kōrero, engari i hiki hoki i tēnei mate e kōhuru nei i te iwi Māori. Tērā hoki tōna whakaaro me Māori ia wā ia rā. He iwi motu hake, he iwi taurikura e kore tātou e ngaro. I whai hoki koe i tērā takahitanga a tahu pōtiki Wirimu Rātana me o tāua ake o te kāhui mōrehu ki rānana. Whai hoki koe me ki i ngā mahi a ngā ana here pono, tai atu ki te māngai, ai nei, ake nei, ai. Nā reira, ka reo i te whakatōroanga ngā kōrero, engari te tū, hei waka kōrero o tēnei te Pāti Kāhurangi, me te tuku roimata ki a koe, engari ki te karapine mai, hei whānau kotahi ki tēnei pāremata. Tātou, e karapine mai nei, e awhi mai nei, i te rau me te haki o te Pāti Māori i tēnei wā. Ka whai ia i tēnei wā, te wā o te kai ruri i te tau tawhito, te kai huaki i te tau hau. Ko ia ku puanga e tere mai nei, ko matariki e piata mai nei. Ki te whakakiki i te kupenga a tara mainoku. Ka te kau mārua marama, mātou ka tangi mau, a taino ki te wā, ka hawa mai, tō mate, ngā mate o te tau te tūnei, kia tai atu ki tua o Pohutukawa. Kei taku Pohutukawa, kei taku tuahine, Ke taku tuahine te pairu o ngā iwi o te puku o te whenua, te puku o te ika, te taitonga o Taranaki, te rahi hoki o Tāmaki Makaurau. Pōrua mai tō matararama ki tēnei ao.
Now, you probably can bring up some facts, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the fact that the way how Tama referred to her as the rangatira of the rangatahi. I thought that was a very good gesture there. That I caught that. So my understanding of te reo Māori is limited, but there are key words and sentences that I can pick out. But yeah, basically he said that she was a chiefess to the youth, and that is true. She very much was. She did a lot of good stuff with youth. The team that she helped lead, I think they were like the first one in New Zealand to win or to get nominated for like the US. Yeah, here we go. From 2007 to 2015, she led the Shazaya Dance Academy, which became the first crew from New Zealand to qualify for the World Hip Hop Championships in America. So yeah, very, very much, a rangatira for the youth.
Now, Frankie, you're from the area.
Oh, being young like rangatahi, is that what you mean?
Oh, I was going to say near Manariwa.
Yeah, so look, I think when you're looking at low docile areas,
I think decile might be the better word.
The same thing. Docile areas, you're looking for people that need hope, people that need support, and people who haven't been given as many opportunities as other people. So when someone like that comes into the mix and shines that kind of light, but really means it, because there are a lot of people who say they want to do things for people, and especially when it comes to rangatahi, to children, people come in with empty promises because it looks good or because they mean it in their heart, but they actually don't come through and deliver like she has. And I think that's been really, really important. Not only when we speak about rangatahi as our future of tomorrow, they're actually our children right now. So they need that nurture, care and support and someone they can count on, because not necessarily are their whānau lives like that at home. They may have people working extremely long hours, people caught up in addiction, all sorts of reasons from intergenerational trauma, plus living in that kind of area, So I think that she's really been an angel, and I think it's, in my opinion, from what I felt, it's been really unsettling for a lot of people. They don't know what's going to happen from now. Who's going to take over the spaces that she created and actually led and stayed strong in and kaha in those positions? I think right now people are thinking, who's going to be the person to do that, to keep her. I mean, her legendary reputation will live on forever because of who she is and what she's done, but who will maintain the high standards and the pono ability to support and care for people, especially rangatahi, which go unseen so many times and people look over all the time. Who's going to take that position now is probably a question in my mind I've been thinking all day, to be honest.
Yep. Big boots to fill. I mean, she wasn't just an MP; she was also the CEO of Marae. By all intents of the name, she was a rangatira, right? You don't just become a CEO of a marae.
It's not something you can helicopter your way into.
No, you can't buy into it. You can't nothing into it, and might be a subject some people might find sensitive, but hey, that's why I'm here, and especially as a mana wahine. To get into that position, maintain it, and hold it, with so many other factors working against you, man, that's a powerhouse. That's a rangatira in itself too.
And doing it with kidney disease as well. It's like it's like you're the rangatira and the MP.
Yeah, you woke up until the day before to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we've ever had anyone in Parliament like her, to be honest.
No.
And I don't know if we will. I hope so.
I was going to say, we had a Fiscal Collins who literally was in Parliament the day before he unexpectedly passed away. And maybe that's the thing we have in New Zealand with when Parliament's sitting. They seem to be at work the day before.
There must be a preliminary where how committed are you to being in Parliament? How far will you go? Or there's no sick leave or anything like that. But to actually go there when you're physically sick, on top of spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, sorry, that's my emotional support to Chico, who's also opinionated like myself. That's power, man. That's a real rangatira, to put the needs of people, to serve people first before yourself, to have a self-sacrificial role like that. There's nothing.
Now, I think Tarsh now holds the position of probably the first MP to be receiving dialysis treatment while sitting as an MP. Now, this slid under my radar, but I do remember it was talked about in 2014 when Georgina Beyer was standing for Parliament, because this was before she got the kidney transplant, and it was mentioned, while other people have managed to go through treatments and that, I'm sure I can do dialysis treatment and be an MP. And at the same time, and it's been proven that you can be an MP and go through the dialysis treatment and continue at full, as if you're at full capacity.
Full steam ahead.
Yeah.
I really don't have the words to tell you about how impressed, although she doesn't have to impress me, how magnificent that is to have a rangatira to be able to do that. But hey, look, women can do it all. I'm not surprised. I just want to put that in there. But certainly to go through something, and it's really serious from what I know of the journey and people that have gone through it, but then to have a national responsibility, plus be a chair on a board for 13 years, plus all these other initiatives that she has created, produced, and maintained on top of that.
Yeah.
I went through her Instagram after she passed away. Unfortunately, I never met her in person, but I went through her Instagram and I could see how much she cared about her community. You know, I go through the likes of, and I hate to bring this man up, but I go through the likes of David Seymour's posts, and then I compare them to her posts, and I go, the focus is very, very different. These are two very different people.
Yeah. It's not, look, here's where I am at. It's more of a collection of what was actually achieved.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think in that direction, like you're saying, Laura, one is committed to actually making a change. The other is just to make money. And it's really clear when you put them side by side, although it's hard. And I just want to quickly say how unimpressed I was from Winston Peters calling Marama a dickhead on the side in the Parliament. I know that will come up, but I was really upset about that.
I'm pretty sure he called Takutai. Yeah, that was Takutai Tarsh. He called a dickhead. But I thought at first he called Marama a dickhead as well. I was like, what?
Yeah, me too. I've been stewing about it all week, actually. I should have had a better look at it. That just got overseen. Nobody did anything. He wasn't suspended out of the Beehive or Parliament or anything. I couldn't believe it that people had just let somebody verbally abuse somebody nationally and internationally, and nothing was done about it. But yet we have something that's invoking culture, like the haka with Hana, but then you're suspended. But lewd and profanity type of language is okay.
Yeah. It's definitely a double standard here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to Penny Henaray's adjournment. I don't know what you call this one. It's technically an adjournment motion, so it's an adjournment speech. But it's not really. It's commemorating a deceased colleague.
Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Penny Henare. Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, and if you'll indulge me to allow me to sing my lament, and I ask those who do know the words, however, remain seated in the House. E pato hau he weni raro, he ho mai aroha, ka tangi atu au I konei, he aroha ki te iwi, ka momotu ki tā whiti ki pā hae rau. Ko wai e ki te atu, kei whiaku hoai muara, I te tōnuitanga, ka hara mai tēnei kata au e he, ka rau nai ti aui. Kua papa te kakau o te hoi ki te hipapa o te wakati waiwai. Kua whakakingia nei e te roimata e te hupe. Kia hoi atu raha koe ki Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pāmamau.
Kia whakapiki atu rā koe ki te whakamaunga kekete, e kekete mai ai te kekete, e ara mai ai te ara. Kua kōrero hia, tō whanaunga, tō tungane, i tō aranga ki runga i a pōhutu kawa ki te pō, ki te rangi. Ka tukuna atu tēnei uri o te taitokerau, i a koe, kia rehua ki te pō, kia rehua ki te rangi. Kia takahia atu rā koe i te ara wairua, i takahia ai e o ku mātua, e o ku tūpuna. Nō reire, te tuahine e takutahi. Kua ngaru nui mai ki roto i tēnei whare. I ngaru roa, tō aroha ki runga i te motu whānui ki runga no hoki i tō tāua kāinga o tā maki makaurau. Ka kore, o tapu ai e mōne nehu i te pō. Ko tapu ai roa, ka kitea mō ake, ake, ake. Ka whai whakaroa ke ahau ki o tamariki, ki o mokopuna. I te noho tahi māua, ki roto i te hui o matariki ki runga o takaparawhau. I karanga hia tāua e te tuahine i ngā ingoa o ngā mate kua tahuri atu ki te pō. Nā i te rānei ko tōtu ngāne tēnei e mea atu ana, e haere, e haere, e haere. E te māngai o te whare ka tautoko atu a hau i ngā kōrero a tōku tuakana a tama pōtaka i te rānei. Me te mōhio anō hoki, ko tēnei kapua pauri kua tau mai ki runga i tōnā ke whare. Nō reire e te tuakana, e mengi ana te kōrero o ku mātua tūpuna. Tukuna, tukuna o roimata, tukuna te hupe ki a rere. Kia māmāke te mamai e ngaukino nei i a koe, o tira, i a tātou. Nō reire te whānau pani. Nā kua kōrero mai nā te āhuatanga ki a koe e tōku tuakana e tama pōtaka, ki tōku tuakana ki a Shannon Halbert, anā tahuri atu ki tōku hoa rangatira. Kāti, ko ngā mana nui me ngā tapu nui o muaupoko, e tangi nei, e auwe nei, tēnei kā tangi. Ka tahuri mai ngā kōrero ki a tātou, te hunga ora, tihei wā mauri ora. Ka kore au e takaroa i te āhuatanga o e nei kōrero. Ko tāku atu ki aia, a taihua tō haere. Ka tau te whare pāre mata ki runga i a koe, ka rongo mātou i tō kiri. Ka tau iho anō hoki ngā roi mata ki runga i tō waka tīwaiwai, kia tere atu rā koe ki te wāhi, i whakatau ki te ai e o tātou mātua, e o tātou tūpuna ki te pō. I te māngai o te whare, ka nui tēnei māku. Ka waiho nātu, ka whakairihi ake waku kōrero ki te pātū o tō tātou whare, ka tiki nātu rā ki runga i ngā marae, ka tau tō tātou tuahine a takutai, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou.
So I can provide an English translation for that waiata. Basically, it goes, show your cross to me, let it shine. There in the darkness, to there I will be looking. In life and death, let me rest in thee. So that's what he's saying.
Thank you, Laura.
I just thought I'd offer an English translation to those in the chat that don't know that song.
It was actually helpful for me too, because I didn't either.
Yeah.
That. But I see the point from the BFG podcast. I mean,
from Blake.
Yes, that's an immensely correct comment, I think, when you think about it, that people are literally sacrificing their wealth of health and well-being for people. That's how dire straight it's coming. So to me, they must have known already what was coming with National and with Seymour. They must have known for a little while before really they came out and showed the whole world about it, because people are just actively throwing themselves kamikaze in front just to try and stop them from doing what they're doing to us.
We saw it too with Nikki Kay. You know, she was in Parliament while fighting off breast cancer, and eventually she passed away. She succumbed to breast cancer. But yeah, she was, you know, John Key just told her to keep going to work. I don't know ethically how you can do that, but she did it. But yeah, we seem to have a very toxic work culture when it comes around illness in this country.
And this is one that I think really does push it. Now, in New Zealand, and it's like in Australia as well, the word by-election is the most taboo, touchy. People get outraged when they hear the word topic. And this will result in the by-election as well. So a lot of people will soldier on to finish their term to do that. And this doesn't just happen at a central government level. It also happens at a local government level. Yep. It's quite common that people push it out, or they'll push it out to just after that 12-month period to avoid the cost of a by-election, because people see the word by-election as an outrage in New Zealand. Even in this type of situation, that is possibly could be appropriate. And I'd say that's associated with our short terms. So people soldier on because they sit down there, it's one of those things that just seems to happen in New Zealand. Is we just, we try to make it work even where we should possibly take an extended period of time off.
I think when it comes to old Māori on this issue, I think, and I'm just going to throw a hypothesis out here. What I have seen in the Māori community, being a member myself, is that quite often, because we're so underrepresented, that we tend to push ourselves as far as we can to get as much representation out there. Because if we die, or if we get sick, or if we can't continue to work, who's going to fill that spot?
Yeah.
There's very few hands. Like I can't quite remember how the whakatauki goes, but many hands makes light work. But the problem is that, I mean, and it's getting better year on year, right? We're getting more and more people that are coming up and learning how to do politics and learning economics and learning, learning these high skills. But yes, we have had a problem in the past of underrepresentation. I do wonder how much of that is playing a role in terms of how far Pacifica, because we saw it with Professor Collins as well, how far Pacifica and Māori are pushing themselves to get a job done.
Mm. Yeah, and here's something more from what Blake has just sat there and commented on there, that we seem to, as society, we seem to feel that we're obliged to go down this path.
Hmm.
And this is also from Jamie here. We seem to be going down an American path instead of returning to traditional care. And that is true, because, like, health-wise, if you have to take time off work because of health-related issues, if you've got a good employer, they'll probably pay you. That happened to my friend Tony Ives when he had kidney failure. And it was a point before I met him, along with his father, but he was working for Captain Cheeses at the time. I'm not sure if that was when Fonterra owned it or not, but Fonterra paid him his sick pay for the time frame he was waiting to go through on with the bits of dialysis, because he couldn't work full-time when he was doing dialysis. He was lucky to have a dialysis machine at home, partly because he lived more than 50 kilometres away from Wellington Hospital, but partly to keep working. And, and to get a dialysis machine at home.
But the thing is, Sam, they would have paid for her to go on leave. She already took leave for 6 weeks. Yeah. But I think that the issue here, and I'll try to explain it in another way, is that you know how people have immense pride in their work, or mana in their work?
Yeah.
So they feel like because they are they're carrying the weight of their community on their shoulders, or in the European context, carrying the weight of their family on their shoulders, you go to work to represent your community and you put your all into it. It is a bit of a mana thing going on as well.
Yeah. On that point about what's been there is the fact that we do not have ACC for illness.
Mm.
So that's why that's more what my point is saying. Like for Tony, his employer paid him wages. If he didn't get paid wages from his employer, he would have had to have gone on a sickness benefit. But at the same time, he had a partner who worked, which means he would have been completely left with no income.
Exactly. And that's the thought that I was coming to as well, Sam. I mean, this is a sad truth for a lot of people. If you're not working, then you don't have money, you don't have a house, you don't have warmth, you don't have electricity. So I think at any level in this country, that's another conundrum for us, is that there's so many people. I mean, only the super is the only income that's means tested. Nothing else is.
Isn't means tested. Yeah.
And that doesn't come into consideration. Like, let's take, like you're saying, Sam, someone who has got a terminal or unwell, and they've got 6 kids. And someone that's working, how can you compare that to someone who has 1 and say that that's exactly the same?
Yeah, well, it's not. It's not. Yeah. And I mean, I know many, I'd say, big number families where often one partner couldn't work because something would go wrong with one of the kids at least one of the days during the week.
Yes. And I mean, that's the same for student allowances. I mean, nothing compared to dialysis and what's happened here, but I'm just saying there is a a regularity, or there's a consistency on not supporting people and not helping people.
Yep.
And it appears to me like people are making big measures to ensure that they're not there for people, which is causing, you know, bringing in this euthanizing yourself sort of bill, all these other ones, you know. It just, to me, it's just people are being treated as a liability in this country. And so
We're too quick to jump to the cost of liability, but we don't look at the long-term productiveness of what someone puts into the community.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. We see the liability immediately, but we don't see necessarily the asset or the earnings potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at the detriment of people that we love, that actually care about us and are doing everything that they can.
Yeah. Let's get to a combination of Tiana Tuiono and Chloe Swarbrick.
This is a split called Tiana Tuiono.
Te manu karere, te manu katau, te manu karewa. Tēnei whakaroa ke au ki te ana Takutai Tarsh Kemp ki runga ngā treaty o manu rewa. Auwe te aroha, auwe te mamai. E te tuahine haere. Haere atu rā ki o tūpuna. Haere atu rā ki ngā uma o rātou mai e whakanui ana. Nā kōrero i nā tau nui ana koe ki roti tēnei ao. Tara, i takahi koe, i tō ao. Haere atu rā. Te hoki atu rā mahara i a koe ki tēnei o nā whare, nā kaupapa i whakanui ana e koe. Kia hawa no te rangatahi. Ka pūteruha, ka hawa no te rangatahi, ko koe tērā ki roto i o mahi. Nō reira, ko rātou anō, kei te katoa nā triti ki te tāmaki ki te taonga e whai atu ana tō tapu ai. Haere. Mona iwi huhua te wā, te puku o te ika. Taranaki ki te tonga. Te rahi ki tāmaki, tēnei o nā kākariki e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Koutou noa, ka panihia i tēnei wā, nā māta noa i panihia i tēnei wā, ko tātou katoa. Nō reira, i rau nā mema pare mata, me nā tātai whakapapa kia aia. Tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou. Tama, Shannon, koutou katoa. Kia mātou tēnei me te whakaaro nui, o tira kia koutou katoa. Kei o tātou nei whānau te Pāti Māori. I tere ana tō rātou nei haere ki tāmaki makaura, kia noho tahi me tō rātou nei taonga, tō rātou nei tuahine, tō rātou nei hoa. Ana anō nā kākariki mihi atu kia koutou katoa. E mihi atu ki rotu i nā āhuatanga, i kaha koe te manaaki ki rotu i tō wā, i tō ao. Ara tēnei te hihe te kumeroa nā kōrero, hoi, kei te tuku atu mātou nā mihi o Marama Davidson i tēnei wā, kei tāmaki ai i tēnei wā, kei te whai ia, kia noho tahi ki tōna marae, o na rahi nā marae, kia tuku nā tēnei me te ringa āwhina, te ringa manaaki ki aia. Nō reira, e te whare, ana anō nā kākariki, e mihi ana, e tautoko ana te motiri i takatua tamapōtaka i tēnei wā, kia whai whakaro tātou ki nā kaupapa nui, nā kaupapa nā kai nui ana a takutai i tēnei wā. Nō reira, e te tuahine, haere atu rā, nō reira, i tukunau te rākau, kia Chloe Swarbrick, kia tukuna ona whakaro, nā mātou, nā kākariki.
Te mangai. That smile and sense of humour and the warmth of Takutai Moana Tarsh Kemp will never leave us. She was a thoughtful, kind person who lived her values through her service. Before arriving in the trenches here, as our benchmates in Te Pāti Māori always say, she spent 2 decades in health, primarily Māori health and youth development, and led, notably, as the tumuaki of Manurewa Marae. She also loved a kanikani, as others have acknowledged, directing Desire Dance Academy, the first Aotearoa hip-hop dance crew to represent at World Hip Hop Champs in the USA. And in her own words, Mr. Speaker, ko nā rangatahi, nā rangatira, o te naianei. Our youth are the leaders of today. She knew where she came from, and she knew where she was going. But more than that, she knew who would come after, and she actively nourished their creativity and their compassion. Mr. Speaker, people often ask how those of us inside of these halls of power stay sane in here. And I often tell them that actually it's what is on the outside that counts. Takutai Tarsh Moana Kemp knew who she was, where she came from, and what she was fighting for. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. The people, the people, the people. I remember seeing her smile for the first time in a while at the beginning of last year across crowds of people at Ponsonby Pride Parade, just after she had returned from quite a period of treatment. And we talked there about how, upon her return, we would be collaborating on enhancing the health and the well-being of the Waitemata, Tikapa Moana, our Hauraki Gulf, and fighting to house and to feed our people. And Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge in the loss and the grief that we hold today, that Takutai's light and work continues to shine on. And as was just acknowledged, Marama Davidson is in Tāmaki Makaurau in South Auckland today and is doing everything that she can to get to her whānau and to bring our aroha to them. Mr. Speaker, we want to send all of our aroha to her whānau, our friends in Te Pāti Māori, and the broader community across South Auckland, across Tāmaki Makaurau, and all of Aotearoa. In moments like this, Mr. Speaker, I think that we are all gravely reminded of how fragile life is, but how the great stabiliser can indeed be love and integrity. Moi mai rā, e te tuahine.
The Honourable David.
Moi mai rā. Rest in peace.
I've also found out Takutai Tarsh Kemp's birthday was 6 days before dying.
Yep.
And this is going to sound more scary. My brother shares a birthday with her. Because I just went and looked at the date, I'm going 20th June. It's like, oh, that's Yossi's birthday, which is the day before the shortest day of the year. So 6 days after tipping into 50.
51, she would have been turning. Yeah.
Oh, no, just turned 50.
50, because what was it, 1975?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yep, 50, yep.
Yep. Yeah, 6 days after the 50th birthday.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like 6 days till her 50th birthday. It was like, huh?
No. 6 days after.
Yeah.
It was just, because I've just had a look on the Wikipedia page of like, and it's just like, oh, heck. Because I remember she only just turned 50.
Yeah.
And literally, I didn't realize how close it was. I knew it was less than a month. I didn't realize it was less than a week.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I know what it's like to lose a Māori relative. I lost my uncle when he was quite young as well to diabetes. It fucking sucks, man.
It's young. It's too
young.
Too young.
Regardless of how much stress being a politician can be on top of you, it's way too young for anybody to have any kind of illness like that in the first place, you know? And it all comes to the well-being of people, about what you're eating, what we're swimming in, or the healthy homes, you know? So basically, she is a product of what the governments before have given us and that she's suffered through.
True. Yep.
Now, there has been a request to not do David Seymour or Shane Jones. So we'll move on to Carmel Cepoloni.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start by acknowledging and endorsing all of the words spoken today by colleagues across the House. I particularly want to acknowledge the words of our colleague and orator and friend, Penny Henare. I want to recognise the connection that Takutai Tarsh Kemp and Penny formed through some trying circumstances, but the dignified way in which that relationship was upheld. On that note, I also recognise our wider Māori caucus, for whom this loss is more personal and more deeply felt. Just over a year ago, we stood here in this House in shock, grieving the loss of our Samoan brother, Whaanana Efeso Collins. It is hard to fathom that we are here again, but this time grieving the loss of our Te Pātea Māori, tuahine, Takutai Natasha Moana Kemp. To the whānau of our colleagues and our friends, we mourn with you and send you all of our alofa. On behalf of our leader, Chris Hipkins, the Labour Caucus and the Labour Party, I want to recognise that Takutai Tarsh Kemp leaves a legacy of service that goes back much further than her time in Parliament. She served whānau, rangatahi, South Auckland, Māori and non-Māori. I'll never forget the first time I met Tash. It was at Manurewa Marae. She was a ball of energy, so grounded, so clear on the kaupapa, running the marae and the services they provide to the community like a fine-tuned machine. We all know the deal. So many leave the community frontline for politics to try and make systemic change, with the hope that by making that systemic change, the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff would be made redundant. The sadness that we all feel today for the loss of this wonderful woman is paired with a regret that given the health challenges she faced and the short time she served in this House, she didn't have the opportunity to do all we know she had the potential to do here. But we acknowledge that this fighter, this staunch mana wahine, over the course of her lifetime, got a lot done out there. I know my colleague, the Honourable Willie Jackson, will have more to say on Tash's contribution, having worked closely alongside her and others as urban Māori leaders. Across all political parties, the sense of loss will be genuinely felt today, but will not compare to that of Te Pāti Māori. Takutai Tarsh's extended whānau, Rawiri, Debbie, Maria Mino, Takutai, Hana, the President John Tamahiri, the Executive, and all of your members, aroha nui kia koutou. Finally, we send our respect, condolences and love to Tarsh's blood whānau. No matter what anyone says or how this job may feel at times, being a politician doesn't even come a close second to being a daughter, a niece, a sister, a partner, a mother, an auntie and a grandmother. Moi mai rā, Takutai Tarsh Kemp. Moi mai rā.
Speak up, the Honourable Leaders.
Comments from Carmel?
I just
well-
felt for me, I didn't really feel the essence of the aroha like I did in the others, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I think she pointed out a lot about the legacy that she had left behind, but I didn't feel the warmth and the love from her genuinely.
Yeah. And for those who are wondering about the call, Laura was the one who made that at a production level before we went to do this on Friday.
I did, and there's good reason for it.
Yeah.
David Seymour Treaty Principles Bill caused a lot of havoc in the Māori community, and I felt that allowing him to speak would only escalate tensions, or would only, give platform to that type of vitriol that he's been putting out there. And this is not the time and place to do that. Same goes with Shane Jones, right? With what's happening with Ngāpuhi and all of those treaty settlements and stuff like that. This is not the time and the place. And unfortunately, because those two are so divisive, I felt it just wouldn't be appropriate considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
Great call, Laura. I really, I really look up to you for making that decision.
Yeah.
It was a great decision to make.
Yeah, and normally I wouldn't have gone at Skunnet, but I've also watched it, and it felt like, I'll be honest, if I broke that down to clips to post later on, there'll be a whole heap of people who'll be negative commenting on Takutai Tarsh Kemp because they don't understand. So on this particular occasion, we've just killed that
and I don't want her
base.
And I don't want her family to come across, like, if her family came across and watched the videos and saw, nasty comments about their mother or their grandmother or their aunt, I would feel horrible. I don't want, so I'm doing it for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've had a spike of her footage, her speeches that we've covered on previous shows all spiked up the day she passed away. So we know, and it's probably because people have just Googled, tried to find something. Oh, here's something to watch.
Yep.
Because our view numbers for her clips went like tripled. Some of them tripled in that 24 hours, and considering some of them were dated back as far as February.
And I think even for me, I've learned a lot more about her too, and her legendary embrace of communities and rangatahi. Since she's passed away, I've been guilty of Googling too and finding out a lot of things I didn't know before. And so for me, I felt guilty in a way because I've gone, how could I not have known this incredible woman and what she's done for all of us? And in these spaces, especially as a South Auckland girl, because I'm a South Auckland girl, and everything that she's done. And it also made me think, who else don't I know as a diamond in the rough and they're shining humbly that I'm yet to find out?
Yeah, because really the only thing you know about her, like, that's been pushed out by mainstream media, it was that little thing with the stats, right?
Yeah.
And everyone going haywire over that, and it turning out to be enough.
Over the census.
Yeah, the census. So it's like, okay, I just want to, considering that we're in
the positive things.
We want to highlight. Yeah, we want to make sure that her legacy has got positivity attached to it.
Yeah.
She has done good stuff.
And actually, she would have been one of the people, would have been leading when Manarewa Marae was known as the go-to place. If you're having issues with winds, was the go-to place to get advocacy support. And actually, remembering the time. So, this was all pre-COVID, but people were travelling from, like, Rotorua to get a fair shot.
Yep.
And Manarewa Marae was the one who used to looked after these people while they travelled to Auckland to get their fair shot.
To be fair, and I'm from the coast, so this is not me trying to play favourites, okay? Hini Pare is my marae out in Rangitokia and Ruatoria and Te Horo. But Manurewa Marae has been the matriarch, or has been the flagship store for marae and hauora for a very, very long time. Very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Willie Jackson.
Mr. Speaker, politics is a funny game. We can be so terrible to each other in the House. I'm probably one of the worst at it, Mr. Speaker. You agree with that, did you? But then we can come together for occasions and cope up like this. And a sudden death can do that, Mr. Speaker. It makes us sort of reassess where we are, our priorities in life, where we're going. And the reality is, if we can't come together for this type of kaupapa, well, we can't come together for anything, can we? So I want to congratulate all the speakers. All the speakers we have a bit of a disagreement with every now and again, but I think everyone's done well in terms of this kotahitanga. And these are special moments, Mr. Speaker, special moments for the House. Tash was a wonderful person. She was a beautiful soul. And, this is such a taumaha time. And I heard about the dancing, Mr. Speaker. I always used to challenge you to a dance, but we never ever quite got there. She was just a vivacious, beautiful person. She was a big part of our movement in South Auckland, which was the urban Māori movement. And she led Manurewa Marae and Papakura Marae, Ao Marae, Ngā Whare Wātea, Te Puia Marae and Māngere. And she was just an inspiration because she came from that background of working for our people, and her priorities were supporting, uplifting and empowering Māori. And as Kamau Sipalani said, a mana wahine, just such a great example, an absolute powerhouse in terms of the Manurewa Marae. As a CEO, she was at the forefront of whānau ora, rangatahi development, Māori language development, community development, you name it, and Tasha was doing it. And before that, as I said, she was I don't know if she was quite the dancer. She sort of made out she was the dancer, but I think she was a bit like me, more the manager, Mr. Speaker. In the hip-hop world, I said, I never quite got to where you were actually in that hip-hop world, Tash. But she was directing and organising some of the best dancers this country has ever seen. Just magnificent, just magnificent. And in the area of mental health, particularly in the area of youth suicide, she just did some fantastic work. She was such a vivacious, passionate woman. I was listening to Tama Pōtaka and that last committee we did, Tama, in terms of Tama was fronting it, and we were giving it to Tama Pōtaka at the select committee, and she had the last kōrero, didn't she? And oh my goodness, it was very, very clear what she felt about her relation, Tama, in the national government. And Audrey Young put that in the Herald this morning. I thought that was fabulous. I thought that was fabulous because in many ways, as the Minister knows, it sort of sums up Māori politics. We just can go to war sometimes. Tama can be terrible to myself and Penny Henare, terrible. And Shane Jones, and particularly Winston Peters. We can destroy each other, Mr. Speaker. We can destroy each other. And then, you wouldn't think it was the same people. We'd be having a cup of tea and a kai up the back at the marae. It's the nature of Māori politics. And when I look at Manurewa and I look at my brother Penny over here, Penny Henare over here, who's almost been traumatised by this, Mr. Speaker. You would not have believed that a war went on in South Auckland for that Tāmaki Makaurau seat. You would not believe how tough it was, the different sides, how passionate people were, and people would have thought that they would have been enemies forever. But their whanaungatanga ties them forever and a day. And I think that's the difference between, with Māori politics. We will always be tied by our toto, by our whakapapa, and by our identity. And Penny Henare and Tarsh Kemp couldn't have been any closer. So he's shed a few tears for Tash today. We all shed a few tears for Tash. A passionate, vivacious, magnificent woman. And it's only right that we honour her today. So I thank the House. Thank you everyone for your memories of her. He wahine tō. No reire e te tuahine, e kore mātou e ware tō kaha, ki te kōkiri ngā kaupapa Māori i ngā wakatoa, ki te kōkiri tō tātou ahurea. E kore mātou e ware, e te tuahine moi mai rā.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Ask the members to stand and join with a waiata for the black member. Well, this is where you get to show your talent, Willie. You'd start us off with Deacon.
Oh, we do.
The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m, Tuesday, 15th of July, 2025.
Now, Araho mai whānau, I posted the wrong lyrics. That what they were singing in Te Reo Māori was "How great was thou art," and I should know that coming from a Christian home. So sorry, I got the wrong lyrics. There are multiple songs called "Whakaerea mai."
Don't worry about it, Laura.
I got the wrong one.
I take the cake for docile and decile, okay? I already won that, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, this is a himini, so the hymn. I should have posted the lyrics of the hymn. Okay, but everyone knows what it is now, so that's good.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So there are two versions of that song that was sung in the house.
Yeah.
I feel sad now after that. Honestly, I feel really Maui.
The interesting part it shows there was how many MPs stayed till 2 p.m. to be there. Like the fact, like, you know, I could have pitched, like, that's a fuller house than normally on a Thursday.
Now, I will give credit to David Seymour and Shane Jones. At least they didn't run away. That's the only credit they're getting from me.
And I think that even secretly, even though they are the way they are, how could you not have respect and care for her? How could you not see so beamingly who she was as a person and what she did, whether you are an alligator like those three or not? You just have to.
Yeah. So true. But yeah, no, it's just it's interesting. Yeah, just see all the seats there. Like in that case, both New Zealand First and ACT looked like they had all the MPs on site, along with the Greens. But I not 100%. Oh no, Marama wasn't there.
No, Marama was
with the family.
With the family.
Yeah.
Was Tanya there? Because I heard that she left New Zealand First.
Yes, but her resignation didn't happen until Friday. But I wonder if it purposely was held off because of what happened.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're about to resign and another MP dies, I'm very certain you're not going to do it on the same day.
I feel like that, but you know, people do make things about themselves these days.
Yeah, but I think that might have been one where Winston would have gone, no. Yeah. I do picture there were words of hold off a day.
Yeah, he probably would have said something like, hold off, you dickhead. I feel like
Well, I mean, put it this way, Tanya hasn't even had a valedictory speech, which is a tradition if you're resigning partway through a term or you plan to leave, you tend to have valedictory speech. You know? But, you know, it's just what it is.
No, I know she's a TERF, like, as in she doesn't like trans people for whatever reason, but I'll give her respect for this one, right? She didn't make a shuttle dance out of this one. She quietly left.
Yeah.
So I'll give her that.
I don't think she had a choice after what she said and did.
Yeah.
Did that to herself. I mean, she got the plank out herself, put it on the side of the pirate ship, and started walking herself to the end of it before anybody else needed to push her. Okay, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of envisioning Tanya's departure.
Yeah, when they're already at the end, you don't need a push. A little light gust of wind might help, but they're already gone.
Yeah. Now, we will be covering the last debate that Takutai Tarsh Kemp was in, which is the Immigration, Fiscal Sustainability and Systems Integrity Amendment Bill. Now, normally we would start off with the Minister and take the first 6 speeches, but we're going to jump straight to Takutai for her speech, and then we'll get to the real business of critiquing.
Yep.
making a short call on the Immigration, Fiscal, Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill. I'm rising on behalf of Te Pāti Māori, not just as a lawmaker, but as tangata whenua, as kaitiaki of this land and of the people who seek refugee upon it. While there are some positive elements in this bill, including protections against migrant exploitation, the requirements for the judicial warrants before immigration officers can enter people's homes after hours, ultimately we cannot support it. The bill, while dressed up in the language of fiscal responsibility and system integrity, reinforces a two-tiered immigration system, one rule for the rich, another for the poor. On one hand, we have the Golden Visa scheme fast-tracks residency and citizenship for the wealthy. On the other hand, the bill introduces harsher deportation powers for refugees, people who arrive with nothing but hope for a better life, by allowing the government to cancel resident visas of refugees, even if deportation would result in them being tortured in their homeland. This is not an immigration policy. This is class warfare disguised as legislation. Let's be clear, in the past 10 years, no one has been certified as being a national security risk under Section 163 of the Immigration Act 2009. E te pika, Te Pāti Māori leaves no one behind. The law reinforces a class system for migrants and reinforces the mentality that refugees pose a risk when they do not. While billionaires can buy their way into Aotearoa, refugees whānau who carry nothing but hope are treated like political pawns. Yes, there are some good provisions in the bill and we acknowledge those, but let us be absolutely clear. These small wins do not undo the deep injustice at the heart of this bill. The message remains wealth equals worth and poverty equals suspicion. It is hypocritical, it is elitist, and it is a breach of our values as a nation grounded in manaakitanga. We call on the government to rethink immigration policy in line with Te Tiriti o Waitangi and with the values of fairness, manaakitanga and rangatiratanga. E te pika, Te Pāti Māori leave no one behind, and we do not support the bill. Kia ora.
Fuck, why does that slap so hard the second time? I'm tearing up over here. But that speech pretty much just shows who she is as a person. You know, she's like, I'm not leaving anyone behind. It doesn't matter whether or not you're tangata whenua or a manuhiri or, you know, tangata tiriti, we're not leaving you behind. And that was her as a person.
Mm.
And I feel like key for me is when she spoke about, or even somebody coming here as a refugee.
Yeah.
So she was even thinking about those who are less fortunate and those that are coming from dire straight circumstances as well. It wasn't just, like you're saying, Laura, it wasn't just Māori, wasn't just Tauiwi. It was actually in the greatest scheme of things. People, just people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, people. Yeah.
Right until the day she died, she walked the talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was fighting for everyone.
Yeah. And going by that speech, you know, which was 2 days before passing away, it felt like you wouldn't have got the feeling this was going to be the last.
But she I mean, because I also descend from Rangatira. Wiremu Karaweko was my ancestor from down at Onuku Marae. The way how she spoke, I can mirror that speech with the way how my ancestors spoke, because they have written records about how they treated European settlers that came in and how they came onto the land and things like that. They had a very similar attitude to her. And I just think that's so beautiful to watch a rangatira, a leader, a chiefess, speak like that.
I mean, at the end of the day, we make love with each other and have babies. So if we can have babies with each other, I'm sure we can have a little respect for each other. Surely we're getting close enough to have children. So we've gotten to know each other a little bit well over the years. So I'm sure that if we can make babies, we can make a better future for them.
I mean, I'm proof of that. Look, I'm the whitest person here. My mother is Māori. My father is English.
But I think it comes down to all acceptance of that. Everyone has beautiful whakapapa. Everybody has that lineage and those bloodlines. May it be 10, may it be 20, but everyone has a beautiful whakapapa to whom they belong to and should be respected too. And for me, colonisation has harmed that for everybody, because tauiwi no Māori here in Aotearoa, they don't know their full whakapapa lines and where they come from or what their crest is or who, going back 10 generations either. We're all trying to find that identity. We're all trying to find that. So let's do it away together in the same waka to respect and care and manaki each other, support each other on their journey to do so.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the real business of the day. Erica Stanford.
Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill.
That legislative statement is published on the authority of the House, can be found on the Parliament website.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Immigration, Fiscal, Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Education and Workforce Committee to consider the bill. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the bill be reported to the House by the 13th of November 2025. Mr Speaker, immigration is integral to New Zealand's economic and social prosperity. It plays a key role in supporting this government's Going for Growth agenda and delivering the skills our businesses need to compete globally and to grow. We want to enable a smart, responsive immigration system that attracts the skilled people that New Zealand needs. And since taking the immigration portfolio, this government has made changes to the regulatory settings to get them right and deliver on our priorities. We've targeted key skills gaps and ensured sustainable and efficient visa processing while effectively managing risk. Settings are more attractive to migrants and more workable for businesses. The AEWV work visa targets high-skilled migrants and mitigates exploitation concerns, and we have significantly improved processing times. The new Parent Boost visa will help unite families and enhance New Zealand's appeal to bring in highly skilled migrants. Our investor visa sittings are now more simple and flexible, and they are delivering results. From November, we're making it easier for people to visit New Zealand from Australia. Chinese and Pacific Island Forum nations will no longer need a separate visa. This trial will make it faster, cheaper and simpler for our second largest tourism market. Also, we've adjusted the fee and levy rates to reduce the taxpayer burden of administering the immigration system. I'm proud of the improvements we've made to the immigration system, but Mr Speaker, there is more to do to ensure our legislative settings are fit for purpose and designed for the future. Mr Speaker, the geopolitical context of the world is changing and New Zealand is not immune to risk. This bill will improve the immigration system's integrity and responsiveness by tightening settings in response to risk. More instances of migrant exploitation can be prosecuted, and there will be stronger consequences for residence class visa holders who commit criminal offences or pose significant risks. The bill also introduces appropriate safeguards in the system for vulnerable people. It implements legislative recommendations from two independent King's Council reviews of the immigration system. Those were Victoria Casey's 2022 review into the detention of asylum seekers and Michael Heron's 23 review of immigration out-of-hours compliance activity. The bill's changes also ensure that the system is flexible to unusual events and enables immigration funding to be fairer and more sustainable into the future. Mr Speaker, the bill makes 10 targeted changes to the Immigration Act. Firstly, the bill addresses a gap in New Zealand's migrant exploitation settings by creating a new offence to knowingly seek or receive a monetary premium for offer of employment. Charging premiums for employment is an increasing form of migrant exploitation and causes real harm. Often premiums are in the realm of tens of thousands of dollars. Currently, the legislation does not cover premiums that are paid before the employment commences, premiums that are made offshore, or situations where a premium is sought or received by someone other than the employer. This change makes it even clearer that this behaviour is not tolerated in New Zealand. It will enable us to prosecute more instances of migrant exploitation and hold exploitative behaviour to account. Secondly, the bill amends the definition of a mass arrival group to better respond to changes in international people smuggling trends. The current definition excludes people who have arrived on a scheduled international service, such as a commercial flight or a cruise vessel. This change will ensure that New Zealand can appropriately and humanely manage the potential arrival of a large number of irregular migrants at one time, regardless of how they travel into the country. Thirdly, the bill will reinforce the expectations of residence class visa holders. It will clarify that deportation liability is a consequence of criminal offending rather than solely on a criminal conviction. Currently, if a judge orders a resident class visa holder's discharge without conviction, the person cannot be liable for deportation, even if they've pled guilty or been found guilty. This undermines the integrity of the good behaviour bond for new residence class visa holders. It also advantages migrants over New Zealand citizens who cannot seek to avoid a conviction on the grounds that it could lead to their deportation. This change means that a person is liable for deportation if they plead guilty, are found guilty or are convicted of a criminal offence. Decisions about the deportation liability of individuals who have committed triggering offences will be made with the immigration system rather than in the criminal courts. The existing humanitarian appeal rights to the Immigration and Protection Tribunal will remain unchanged. Fourthly, the bill improves our ability to respond to the very rare situations where a migrant poses a threat or risk to the security of New Zealand but cannot be deported, for example, because there is a credible chance that they would be subject to torture. In those situations, the Minister of Immigration will be able to cancel the person's residence class visa. The removal of residence class visa status will facilitate deportation in the future if circumstances in the person's home country should change. In the meantime, an individual will be on a temporary visa. They will no longer be able to vote or purchase a home, and they will lose the ability to sponsor a friends or family member to come to New Zealand. This approach is consistent with the international human rights law and the principle of non-refoulement. The Fifth Amendment builds on operational improvements by requiring immigration officers to obtain a judicial warrant prior to conducting out-of-hours compliance activity. While most compliance visits can be effectively undertaken in hours, sometimes out-of-hours visits may be the only realistic option for contacting a person subject to deportation. This will ensure that when such an action is necessary, it is scrutinised by an independent body protecting individual rights and providing confidence in compliance action. This was a key recommendation in the 2023 Michael Heron review. The Sixth Amendment in the bill establishes a separate higher bar for the detention of asylum claimants. These groups of people are in New Zealand under very different circumstances and have particular needs, which New Zealand is under an obligation to respond to.
This change responds to a recommendation in the 2022 Victoria Casey review and long-held concerns from stakeholders. The 7th Amendment will increase the range of tools available to manage immigration risk and ensure compliance measures are proportionate. At present, judges only have 2 options when someone is subject to restrictions of movement under the Act. They can either detain the person, usually in a prison, or release them on the condition that they comply with the RRRA, the Residence and Reporting Requirements Agreement. The bill establishes electronic monitoring as an alternative to detention where a person is subject to deportation. This change responds to concerns from judges and stakeholders that the existing compliance options are not always appropriate. It also responds to a recommendation in the 2022 Casey review. The bill's 8th amendment enables flexible responses to challenges to the immigration system to more effectively respond to unusual events. Currently, the Act requires an individual to submit a visa and a decision maker to individually determine the outcome. This individualised approach doesn't allow for efficient management of large numbers of visa applicants, such as visa holders, like visitors, who are stranded due to an airline disruption, which we saw in May last year. The system also struggled to respond to the collapse of Air Vanuatu, which temporarily stranded hundreds of RSC workers in New Zealand, and the volcanic explosion which caused Tonga's airspace to close and meant many visiting Tongan citizens were stuck here. This change will enable the Minister of Immigration to make decisions on visas in the absence of applications, only in situations where this will benefit a group or an individual. Finally, Mr Speaker, the bill will support the immigration funding system to be fairer and more sustainable through 2 amendments. The bill provides an option in the future to expand the immigration levy payer base so that immigration system costs are more fairly shared across people who benefit from and create risks for the immigration system. The bill also creates a new immigration levy making power to expand the purposes that immigration levy can be used for. While there are no immediate plans to undertake a fee and levy review to implement these changes, the bill future-proofs the system should such changes be needed in the future. Mr Speaker, these are important, sensible changes to the Immigration Act that will ensure New Zealanders have the confidence in the integrity of the system. MB consulted with key groups, including immigration experts, businesses, unions, the legal professionals, on the policy proposals drafted in the bill. Their feedback has helped to strengthen and improve this bill. With that, Mr Speaker, thank you, and I commend the bill to the House.
It feels like it felt like the US Constitution was being mentioned, and that none of the amendments mentioned anything like the US Constitution. I mean, Amendment 6 ain't about, what do you call it? I can't remember what Amendment 6 is. Amendment 5 is you cannot be forced to say, what was it called? Say anything that incriminates you. But it just shows that, I mean, Erica does thoroughly go through her bills and actually knows them inside out. It clearly has been shown in the first reading speech.
Yeah, I'll give it credit for that. I mean, when I was looking over the Hansard, I was like, okay, all right. I was like, whoa, hold your horses! You just made 10 statements, 10 changes to the Immigration Act. Wow.
She actually said it. She didn't put a airy-fairy vibe speech. She actually said what the changes were. Like, I really learned a lot about that bill in her opening statement. I don't think any national minister has actually done that when it comes to the first opening statement, that literally for someone who hasn't read the bill actually has an idea about the bill for the response speeches.
Yes, I'll give her that. So this bill is very much the way how she's kind of set it up. It is an attempt at trying to pass something that's bipartisan in nature, because the research into this bill, or the regulatory standards bill, all the work that went into that, started under the last Labour government. So she's carried that on. Now, I'm going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of what National has done here. So the good, create a new offence for migrant exploitation, job premiums. So basically it's going to make it illegal to knowingly seek or receive payment for job offers. Good. Yeah. We need that. That's good. Now I'll go to another good one. Judicial warrants required for out-of-hours immigration raids follows the 2023 Huron Review, which I briefly looked over for the show. Recommendation to protect rights. Good. Okay. Now, there are things that could be improved upon here, but this is a good foundation, right? You've got to have a warrant to do an arrest. I would like to see a bit more flexibility there. Like, if you're going to do a day arrest or something like that, you have a warrant, and you can't always, put it this way, you can't always detain someone after hours, right? People's lives don't work like that. And Erica, to be fair to Erica, she brings that point up. So I'll give her points for that. We're kind of almost doing like a cinema sins moment here. It's like take away points, add points.
What's the total?
Yeah, no, the total's in the positives at the moment. Stricter rules for detaining asylum seekers by raising the threshold for detaining asylum seekers. Good. Okay, she's making it harder for assholes to detain refugees at the airport. Very good. So she's following the recommendation 2022 Casey review. Electronic monitoring is an alternative to prison detention. Good.
I didn't even know that was actually something that couldn't be done in New Zealand.
Yeah, no. She alongside with the previous Labour government, she's actually made an attempt here to preserve freedom of movement. So
Yeah, which
is
actually electronic monitoring is a lot cheaper than being locked in a prison with criminals and potentially not in your supportive fields. Whereas you might come to New Zealand, you might be put on electronic monitoring versus, like, if the option was electronic monitoring or the prison, well, we know which one is more cost effective and which one actually helps the person assimilate into society and prove their worth.
Yeah, so just as a caveat, right, this is not going to be the case in all situations regarding deportation. This is just giving the judge a bit of flexibility here. So, yeah, basically it's allowing for the court to assess whether or not it is safe to put this person under electronic monitoring. I do have ethical problems about electronic monitoring because I have met people who have to wear the bracelets. They are very uncomfortable. They are very large, bulky pieces of equipment. And it can, if people had a problem wearing masks during lockdown, you don't want to be wearing one of these. This is worse, much worse.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more ethical than shoving someone into Auckland prison, especially a refugee.
Especially where they'll likely end up as Mount Eden, which is not actually the best prison for anyone to actually go to.
You'll be throwing lambs into the wolves then. All the wolves would eat those lambs up. They'd just be waiting for it.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, put it this way, it's like a very high remand population as well, which that itself does not help with things, because when you've got remand, there's no rehabilitation services, there's no things. The only thing you're allowed to do is vote.
Yep.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
No. It would not be able to be done. Even with the proposal to make prisoners ban the right to vote, you can only ban it at the point of sentence. You cannot actually ban it on remand because you haven't yet been sentenced.
Yeah, but I will get into that because that's when we get into the ugly side of the bill. But yes, last two good points is emergency visa powers for unusual events like natural disasters. Very good. You don't want to be detaining people who've just come out of a disaster zone. And broader immigration levy payer base. So expands who pays the immigration levy. So that's good. Okay, so that means that we're getting a bit more money in to pay for immigration services. Good. Okay, now let's go to the ugly part, and this is the part where I agree with Takutai. Takutai, sorry. I don't blame National for getting Takuta and Takutai, their names mixed up. It's very funny when that happens. I just did it there. I merged them together.
Also, put it this way: one's a male's name, one's a female's name as well. But put it this way: to me, Rangi was a male's name thanks to the character Rangi Hiramaya on Shorten Street. There is a person who has worked for my business who's a female called Rangi.
Yeah, and
to me, it was like always until I met her. It was really weird.
And also on Play School too.
Yeah.
Oh. It might have been before my time.
I was around there.
Yeah.
Was that when Jim Hickey was a children's television host before he became a Weaver Man?
Yes, I was. I'll admit it. I'll put my hand up and say I was around in that era.
Yeah, you're definitely showing your age here tonight.
I know. I should have. After I said dose,
Guys,
I should have just walked right out. I should have just taken the stairs and gotten out of here.
All right, so let me get into the ugly bit of this bill because about half of it is pretty good. The other half is meh, but there's one that sticks out that's not so great, and I'm going to talk about that one now. So deportation for criminal offending, not just convictions. So basically that means that resident visa holders can now be deported if they plead guilty or are found guilty or are convicted of a serious crime. So cancelling residency for security risks who can't be deported. The minister can now place them on a temporary visa, which means that they'll lose their voting rights, the ability to buy homes, and sponsorship privileges. Now, Erica did say that in the speech, which is good, but I'm going to explain why this is not such a great thing, and why I support what Takutai said. So, cancellation of resident status will also reduce the rights of individuals, including in certain circumstances, the ability to access welfare support, which could be harmful to that individual. So, again, if you've got someone that's low income and they need food support or they need something, right, for ethical reasons, this is going to severely impact what benefits they can be eligible for, even though they would have paid taxes and all that stuff and paid into the system, that they're not going to get anything out of it. So now the regulatory impact statements does state that this will only apply to a small number of individuals, so 1 to 2 individuals every 5 years. But that's a guesstimate, okay? Weird shit does happen, so you've got to have other provisions for when the weird shit happens. Now, this bill, it's really interesting. It combines 2 proposals from the regulatory impact statement. It combines Proposal A and Proposal B, providing a more flexible response to managing individuals under the Immigration Act. So it combines cancelling residency with electronic monitoring. Now, the regulatory impact statement actually liked the community approach to resolving these problems, but National's done a weird thing here where they've gone, well, we got to punish crime, but we've also got to not be unethical. Like, as in, we've got to make sure that there's community supports and, make sure that the freedom of movement is not limited. It's a weird thing, but yeah, I'm not particularly fond of restricting rights for people. I think that needs working on, but for the most part, right, I can say 50-60% of this bill passes the sniff test.
Well, it's a lot better than many of National bills.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give Erica that credit. Like she's done more work than the average National MP.
As it says, it's a lot about what's it called? It's a lot to do with Erica Stanford, yeah, I know. I saw that popped in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I know
also, just to let you know, I am playing my goblins. So for those, you can't. That's annoying for that cameras. You can't see on the smart screen phones. But yeah, I am playing my goblins at the same time. But that just shows Erica Stanford herself is the fact that she's actually making sure she does thorough bills, but she also wants to make sure her legislation doesn't get undone at the next government.
I'm sorry to all the people that had to listen to me ramble
No.
But it's got big parts. It's got big chunky parts attached to it.
I think
Exactly. And it's letting us know the fish hooks in the legislation.
Yeah. So that's my rant for tonight.
My thing is that they're playing it safe. A lot of it was just rambled on off a piece of paper. I don't know if she really knows what she's saying a lot, because you couldn't pry her away from the piece of paper that the speech had been written down for her. No, it didn't really come from the heart. From the way she was reading it to me, it was just rambling on. It wasn't from the heart because I care and love people. It was like, this is methodically what's going to happen.
Yeah, but I think she was reading her facts on her paper to make sure she wasn't making things up on the spot.
Yeah, she was doing what I do.
Yeah.
I've got a piece of paper in front of me on my screen.
But did you feel like a Mother Teresa vibe? Did you feel you love
No, definitely did not feel that from Erica.
Right?
No. But I wasn't expecting that from Erica either.
What I got was more of an academic response, which is fine. I will give that a pass. But it's I mean,
and I do like what David has put on here. Sam is always attentive, just has degrees. Well, David probably knows that these 2 new papers I got take up a lot of time. 6 hours. I've got it down to 6 hours, so it's better than 6.5, which it was 2 weeks ago. So I'm on my 3rd week of delivering between 320 and 340 papers on a Sunday morning.
Wow.
And I used to deliver about 160.
Wow.
And I mean, the 160, The paper runs, those 2 paper runs, I was doing them, and it was one was down to 75 minutes, one was at 90 minutes. Ironically, the one that was at 75 minutes actually paid me more money than the one that was at 90 minutes, funny enough.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas, the new ones, it's trying to refine it through there and that sort of thing. But at least I only had 1 redelivery this morning, so that wasn't too bad. And like the person was shocked to find out her paper arrived at 12:30 in the morning.
Wow.
The original one that got soaked in the rain. And I said, oh, well, it's been there since 12:30. And she goes, is that when you delivered it? I said, oh, I've got 350 papers across 2 paper runs, and it takes about 6 hours. She goes, oh my God, is this what's happened with all these new runs? I didn't know that. Yeah, because they've just changed all the runs in Wellington for the Sunday start times and for the post.
Why? Why, Sam?
It was concentrating the runs down. So on Sunday, they've gone from 16 runs down to 9. But a lot of people were doing 2 runs on Sunday, went down to 1. And that was what was meant to happen with me. But what ended up happening was one of the people who they had lined up for one of the runs decided to call it quits completely. And then it was just like, hey, Sam, I know it's your first preference. Do you want Miramar as well? And I'm like, yes, it's the paper run with no traffic lights.
So you're the favourite, Sam. Just say it, that you're the favourite people. And if you were to get on dialysis, you would be paid to continue.
I'll still be delivering the paper. I'll still be delivering. Well, actually, I think I'm not 100% certain. We'll have to check it. But Councillor Mandy Mayhem from Dunedin City Council, I think she is still doing her paper run. Now,
Really?
she had a paper run when she was on the DPB before she met Lee. And she was still doing the paper run when she was a community board member. I think she's probably still doing it now.
That's so mad cool she is.
Yeah. And it's not because she wants to make it. It's just something she's done for so long.
And also,
so in her case, it's the Otago Daily Times. In her case, the Saturday paper. Because they don't do a Sunday paper for the OBT.
I mean, not probably at midnight at night. Like if a guy's into.
Oh yeah, no. That's just where it comes off. It leaves the printer where it goes into a van off the printer at 10 p.m.
Wow.
So that's when it leaves Petone to head to New World Miramar to get the papers there. So for everyone knows that if you want to sit there and steal my papers, go to New World Miramar. That's where they are.
Go down there and try and take a paper run because Sam needs to because he's teacher's pet down there.
I just love the fact that we went from talking about regulation to newspaper.
Sam's new paper run, yeah.
I was like, all right. I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one to Sam. I had my 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, I think we need to move on to Phil Twyford.
Yeah.
I was praying to Eon that there'd be a distraction from the Jim Hickey business with me. So
Jim Hickey and children's TV shows.
Immigration system is for New Zealand to attract, welcome and successfully settle the people our country needs, and importantly, we believe, to treat people with dignity, respect and fairness. Mr Speaker, this is a wide-ranging bill that makes a variety of changes to our immigration system. Labor supports some of the changes made by this bill, such as those recommended by Victoria KC and Michael Heron KC. We have questions about other aspects of the bill and we look forward to exploring those at Select Committee, such as the increased levy powers and the changing of the definition of a mass arrival. There are important principles that underpin the discussion here, Mr Speaker. The first, I think, is that people have a right under international law to seek asylum enshrined in international law and commitments that we have signed up to. Secondly, that the integrity of the system must be protected to keep the public's faith in asylum being just for those fleeing war and persecution. And thirdly, that the primary risk we must always remember when people flee their countries is to the lives of those asylum seekers, not from asylum seekers. So let's walk through some of the key provisions of the bill. I want to start with the provisions that have arisen out of Michael Heron's 2023 review of out-of-hours immigration compliance activities. And it was a concern to a lot of people, including us when we were in government, that immigration officers were turning up unannounced at homes and in the middle of the night or in the very early hours of the morning. And given the scars that the Dawn raids left on this country from the 1970s, that clearly, that compliance activity needed guardrails put around it. And I'm glad to see the provisions in the bill do that. Secondly, in relation to the conditions around warrants of commitment and the provisions around the detention of asylum seekers, background on that is that about 3 years ago, Amnesty International published an investigation into the jailing of asylum seekers in New Zealand and alleged that this was going on. They provided some very harrowing examples and they said it was happening in contravention of New Zealand's international obligations. And as Associate Minister, with the support of my senior colleague, I arranged for Victoria Casey, then QC, to do the investigation, and she did an excellent job. She entirely vindicated Amnesty International's report. Asylum seekers were being jailed in New Zealand, not in large numbers, but decisions were being made by junior officials in Immigration New Zealand in the absence of any proper process to jail asylum seekers, indeed in contravention of New Zealand's international human rights obligations. And Immigration New Zealand has since then implemented a raft of policy and operational changes. These legislative changes are the final piece of the puzzle, I think, and Labor is very glad to see them before the House tonight. Third, creating an offence for people who seek a monetary premium for an offer of employment. This is something that we're very happy to support in the House. No one likes to see the kinds of migrant worker exploitation cases that pop up in the media with alarming frequency. Corrupt overseas agents effectively selling visas, seeking premiums for offers of employment, working in cahoots with dodgy employers in New Zealand. It has to stop, and we strongly support this particular initiative to do that. On the fiscal sustainability provisions, we'll be interested to see who exactly the Minister wants to target in relation to that. On the mass arrivals, I've run out of time to talk in depth about that, but we will be exploring that in detail at Select Committee, as with the special powers that are being granted in relation to how you deal with someone who's a protected person, but is deemed to be a risk to public safety. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, just before we sit down there and get into conversation, I think I'm going to show you a map of today's. Now, this is just one paper run, but look at how many of those numbers there are across the screen. So that is just the Miramar Peninsula. So that is one paper run that I did this morning. If you see, I finished it at 2:13 a.m. Now, we'll see if this one brings up. And this is the Newtown Brooklyn one. Just like to point out over here, there's the hospital. Over there's Government House. Just to let you know, Patsy's not getting her paper at the moment. They used to be on there, but you can sit there and get all the way up to Victoria University over here, right up to the windmill, and right along back into the heart of like Brooklyn and right out through now this area here used to be Athletic Park. Now it's a retirement village, but it's the one where where the Springbok tour stuff happened in there, and there's also Wakefield Hospital in there. But just to put some context of the sort of like the scale of the paper run, and both paper runs are about 50 kilometres each.
That is a mammoth task. Did you deliver any to Parliaments?
No. Parliament is all the way up here under the Newtown Thorndon run. Not the Newtown, the Thorndon paper run. So not my paper run.
I just want people to know that how serious the paper run is, because I wasn't aware of this whole situation. And I personally think that people on paper runs shouldn't be able to be deported either. After that,
100% agree.
I personally, after seeing that, you get all the rights.
I don't even know if we have anyone on work visas working on the paper. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone's a citizen or resident.
And from what I've heard, because here in Devonport, it's the same people who've been doing that for a long time. Or
many of those recently got made redundant. But you had people like, there was one person who in Wellington, 46 years.
No way.
Like doing the same paper. Like she was in her mid-80s.
Damn.
Like mid-80s, still doing the paper run.
What a
she, like so 40. So how old did she start? When the legal age would have been what? Back then, 13.
What paper runs?
Yeah.
Probably for the paid ones, the times of the day, yes, you would probably... No, you probably would have had to have been 16 or 18. Because I know someone who used to deliver the Dominion. This is a day in Wellington when it had the Dominion and the Evening Post. And because she was under a certain age, she wasn't allowed to start before 6 a.m, but she had to deliver them by 7 a.m.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. That
In conclusion, sorry, I didn't mean to trigger your dog. In conclusion, I agree with Phil Twyford, and good job, Sam. Did a good job on the paper run.
Yeah, and for Jeff, yes, that is the hilly parts of Strathmore. I do go up, and also along Seatoon Heights Road, Neve Road, Tocha Road, and yes, the hills can be quite steep. But I can tell you right now, the Strathmore, the Miramar Peninsula doesn't have the steep roads. It's the Brooklyn part that has steep roads, including one morning on Mortimer Terrace, I wheel spinned when I went around a corner being a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So I now won't drive that section of Mortimer Terrace now because I just can't afford to get stuck.
Fast and Furious, Wellington Drift.
But do you just throw them? Like, are you driving and throwing them at the same time?
Yes. Throw them out both windows. Both windows, and you're trying to get them to the house. Some of them you have to do letterbox deliveries. But yeah, you pretty much, I mean, I delivered to 2 libraries this morning, so Miramar Library and Newtown Library, because they were on my paper runs. I mean, when I used to have the Island Bay paper run, I used to have Island Bay Library on it.
Holy moly, so you're actually driving and doing it on your own, Sam? Like, no one comes to help you? You haven't got, like, a partner or...
No.
Some child that needs some pocket money? I don't know, somebody to help.
God, at that hour of the day? Trust me, it's damn hard to find a person to fill in for me when I need someone to fill in.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've got someone who actually does fill in, Don, who's a professional stop-go sign operator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he did it once for me. He absolutely loved doing it. But he's used to being up at those hours, but most people freak out at that.
I agree with Jeff.
I think under the new contracts, I agree with you, Jeff. We do need that. And anyone who may have noticed, if I've mentioned the name Mons, she is a paper contractor, and when the new runs kicked in, she ended up with a nice 300 paper weekday paper run now. So she doesn't do Sundays anymore, but she does Monday and Saturday.
What do you think of Phil Twyford's speech?
Yes, let's get to Phil Twyford. Yes. It felt a bit like, what do you call it? It mentioned his part about when he was Associate Minister of Immigration.
Yes. Frankie, what do you think?
I think that, I like how he was respectful of the time, but, yeah, he didn't really go into too much. I don't know I really don't know what to say about his speech, to be honest.
Thinking too much about newspapers.
Well, not just that. Like, I was still thinking about the speech before because I'm trying to work out what their angle is. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just like it's one of those squares that don't fit into a circle. You know,
Yeah.
Like, there's something that's not right.
I can tell you, the angle is save as much money as possible while not violating as many human rights as possible.
But also,
that's a good summary.
Or be able to determine who you deport and who you don't. Do you know
Pretty
what I
much.
mean?
Don't deport the rich people.
No, because there's a lot of corruption that trickles down into all sorts of lines of work and things like that too. So, yeah.
Peter Thiel was 6 days before he got New Zealand citizenship.
Oh, that's that other version of Elon Musk. What's his name again?
Peter Thiel. Yeah, and I don't think many people actually know it there because there's all sorts of big things happening in the United States about him at the moment.
Guy. Yeah.
And it's like the fact is like he got granted New Zealand citizenship after being here for only 6 days. Most people have to spend 3.5 out of 5 years in a collective space to get citizenship.
So why was he given 6 days?
Because he's got money. It was under John Key's government. So it was before Trump got elected first time round.
Yep.
So
billions of dollars.
So they couldn't be undone by a new government?
No. Citizenship is not easy to undo. Plus, the other thing is, he hasn't broken any New Zealand laws to justify undoing it.
He made me cringe.
That we
the-
found.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I don't agree with the way he's attained it, but he hasn't broken any laws to justify stripping away because of the way he attained it.
no, he made me cringe, and he bought a bunker. The portal
Yeah,
outside the
yeah, it's Kiwi Skip's probably brought his way in.
But if we get the integrity meter out, it's going to point directly away from him.
If it was integrity with magnetic north, it'll be pointing probably at the South Pole. Okay, let's get to Lawrence Zunan.
What is it? Yeah.
Dr. Lawrence Zunan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand to speak on the Immigration, Fiscal Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill. And I know that this bill actually covers a lot of different aspects of the Immigration Act 2009. But I think I actually want to first pick up on something that is on the first page of this bill, which is to manage immigration in a way that balances the national interest and the rights of individuals. Although this looks great, but I think it's also a key reminder for this House that Immigration Act is one of the few acts that is exempted from the Human Rights Act. I see that we are able to discriminate against a person who is seeking immigration status on the basis of their disability. And we have seen that over and over again in recent years and even in recent months. So it is important to note that while this is the purpose and the rights of individuals, we do not see it in practice or in other parts of this bill. And I just want to leave that there for now because this segues really nicely into the first part of this bill, which is around immigration levy. And I think it is a genuine concern. One of the things we have seen that's being announced by the government so far is the idea of the parent boost visa and etc. But let us be clear. There are very few people whose parents or who themselves, if they have, if they're one person with two parents, like a lot of the people from China, have $250,000 just tucked away in cash in their back pocket to be eligible for that particular visa type, as well as or alternatively, their parents having superannuation in their country of origin that matches the level of superannuation here in Aotearoa New Zealand. That is simply not feasible for most of the people. And the reason for that, as the Minister said, is to strike a balance between people here, migrants who pay their taxes, who are contributing to Aotearoa New Zealand, who brings diversity and vibrancy to Aotearoa New Zealand. But what we're telling them is that you need to meet this really specific criteria in order for you to be eligible to bring it in, because on the basis that your parents might add burden to our healthcare system. But Mr. Speaker, let us be very, very, very clear. What is the definite proof that migrants is responsible, or even migrants with additional health needs, who are sometimes not eligible for public health system anyway, is responsible for the systemic underfunding of our healthcare system and also our education system? So this first point allowing immigration levies to be charged on visa applications, which is already exorbitant and outside of some people's reach. For example, the application now for residency could be up towards, roughly, I think the latest figure is up towards $5,000. On top of that, we're asking the charge of additional levies and employers' migrants to fund the public health and education system. That then, Mr. Speaker, is no longer a levy. We are adding an additional immigration tax. Levy implies it is for the operations of INZ, which we acknowledge, but it is not for migrants who want to apply for visas to come here and support the lack of funding that this government has given towards health and education. So something like this is something that the Green Party absolutely will not support. In saying that, there are other worthwhile elements in this bill. Like the previous speaker said, the expanded special direction of power, there are certain areas in here, some of the aspects around stronger restrictions on out-of-hours immigration rates. These are good things to see because we have seen our migrant community being harmed as a result of over-the-top treatment towards them in the form of dorm rates and others. But there are other elements of this. We are interested to see in the select committee, like the Casanova resident visa, what would that achieve? The Green Party will not support this bill, but we're keen to see what happens during select committee.
Yeah. Oh, another newspaper. I'm going to have nightmares about
This is how they come. This is how they come. They're wrapped in plastic. You can roll. You can fold them in half like that. and fold them in half again and put a rubber band on it and go throw, or you can throw them out like a flappy. That's how I usually throw mine because you can get them to glide along the concrete.
I just want to thank you for your dedication to your mahi, Sam. I've never met someone so dedicated. In fact, they would take someone else's run too, and against the protocols of your business employer, and take two. But I just want to give you this slow clap because you've deserved it all night.
Yeah, well, I'm slowly getting more adjusted to the 6 hours being up because my body's not quite used to it yet. So, 6 hours at a time that I'm not normally up at. And it's not easy trying to get to sleep at 6 p.m. at night to wake up at 11 p.m. to start the paper. My body just does not want to do it.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
And then you've got your coffee run and all your research. I just rock up when you guys let me come. I just go spontaneously like la la la.
Yeah. I'm out here wanting to talk about
So Lawrence Sinan's speech.
Yeah. No. It's like I'm out here wanting to talk about wonky like policy stuff, and Sam wants to talk about his day. You're just like in the middle. Yes. Lawrence. He made good points. I agree with him. I'm very interested to see what happens in the select committee.
Honestly, I really like Lawrence. If I can have favourites, he's actually one of my favourite politicians.
I like him. Yeah.
I would agree with you. He is probably my favourite Green MP.
Yeah, he's so multi-dimensional, and he's got a good point. I mean, he didn't raise this with the health sector too, but there have been a lot of reports of people that have had disabilities or people who have developed them whilst they've been here in Aotearoa, but then people have tried to deport them because they feel that they're a liability on the medical system.
Yeah, but if they've developed it when they're over here, it's a bit different to coming in with the problem.
Yeah, exactly. But then you've got people saying, "Oh, how did you not know this?" Or or you've come from a third world country, so you haven't had a specific doctor assess you for this, so you may have had it here. People do whatever to help people here in this system. Whatever it takes, this current government wants to throw out anybody who needs any type of support. And like he's saying with learning, a lot of international students bring a lot of revenue over here to study. Yes. That's a fact. You know. So,
I had a former BP colleague who came from the UK while in New Zealand. Now, he had residency by this stage. I hope, like how he had got citizenship because we've lost contact since I've left BP. But he was developing MS while in New Zealand. Now,
that's cool. That's chronic fatigue, kids in the chat.
Yeah, and while that is known to be genetically linked, that wouldn't have been picked up at the point when he left the UK to move to New Zealand.
And this is what people are talking about. But also, if you're living, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone, but if you're living in India and you have a child that needs a wheelchair and there's no way or form of trying to get care for someone, then you're going to try and go for asylum somewhere. That's a natural instinct to take care of
one of the national candidate who stood in the Ramatai electorate came into the country with one disabled child, 2 children, one disabled, one not. And I didn't, we found out this. Like, I was thinking, like, how the hell did you manage to get past immigration? 18 months later, comes to the coffee cart. This is well after the election, says hello, and I find out his wife's a doctor. And that literally opens all the questions of how that scenario occurred.
You bring up a good point, Sam. Right?
Yeah.
There is a good point in here, and I'm gonna mine for it. Okay, so the point here is that a lot of people that they're talking about that they want to bring over here to New Zealand that have the high skills and super talented and whatever, a lot of them often have disabled relatives, and they want to bring them over here too. Yeah. So when you start discriminating against people with disabilities, you could potentially be slamming the door shut in getting new talent into the country that we desperately need.
I know, and to the extent of trying to discriminate against people with disabilities, if their everyday being is not enough or hard enough, and people want to discriminate on top of that instead of looking at what their abilities are and their superpowers are.
I mean, the best one I love to sit there and say, look at disabilities is Huana Hiki.
Yeah.
I have never really seen her as her disability holds her back. It's one of where it seems to be, it's a factor of life, but it doesn't stop her.
Here's another example from the Green Party. And please, calm yourself, prepare yourself, Sam. Tamatha Paul, she has lupus. Another example. You wouldn't be able to tell just looking at it, but yes, she has an autoimmune condition.
And I mean, I was at a DPA hui today. It's 2 days. It's for in our power. It's for wahine that are disabled, and a lot of people won't know this about me. I'm disabled. I'm disabled from grape, and so I've got a spinal injury, and I'm in a disability accessible home, and I've been out of a wheelchair for a long time. So I mean. At least people pick up on that. And I love the example with Dr. Huhana Hiki too, Sam. She's someone I really look up to and I work a lot with. And this is the thing. So if we just have these people in society that are leaders.
I think Huhana is the standard so many disabled people want to get to.
Yeah.
I think that's the standard. And I do know, like, when my friend Tony moved into his fully accessible home in where is it? Fairview Downs, Hamilton. Huhana actually came down and checked it out.
But Frankie, what you just said there was that's very traumatic, what you went through and how you obtained that disability. I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Thanks, Laura.
Oh,
that is horrible.
And for me, why I didn't budge on that one is because Frankie and I have already talked about this.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard that. I'm so sorry you went through that.
And actually, while Laura's talking about lupus, I have known about Tam having lupus for quite some time, whereas Laura didn't know that until very recently. So that was something in there, but I don't talk about other people's illnesses because it's none of my business.
I had heard that Tam had a disability, but I wasn't sure what that was. And I'm someone who likes to have the facts instead of fiction. Like I like to those sort of things. And I think, especially for anybody in any traumatic situation, health or personal, private, then it's that person who wants to share it. So I do talk about it a lot on my TikTok, Laura. You might not see it, but I talk about how I was sex trafficked for a long time, and I'm going through court at the moment. It happens here in Aotearoa. I talk about it on my TikTok. So I've had time to talk about it and things. So thank you for being aware.
So we're going to run into overtime, but I think we need to let's see what ACT and New Zealand First have to say. We'll just do it as a double
whammy.
Double whammy, So, Dr. Pumcheat, throw Te Pāti Māori in jail, Palmer.
Fiscal Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, the previous speaker, I think when he read that statement on the first page of the bill, completely forgot that the statement also says that it is to take into consideration the interest of people, those who are already here in New Zealand. So yes, of course, this bill is to provide that balance, and that balance is needed when we look into our immigration system, that it is fair and just for people, those who are looking to be here in our country, whether it is for just visiting, for studying, or wanting to make New Zealand their home. But then it has to be fair for people, those who are already in our country as well. And these two things which this bill addresses, fiscal sustainability and enhancing integrity by making several changes that the minister has already talked about, are really important, because in this kind of very complex global landscape that we live in, immigration systems are really important. It is not only about looking at one side for people, those who are coming into our country, but also to ensure that the interest of people, those who are already here in our country, are calling New Zealand home, we are able to be fair to them as well. So, Mr. Speaker, in this bill, yes, fiscal sustainability is important, and this provision which will be in the bill, as the Minister said, is not going to be implemented straight away, but this will be there so that if needed, this can be actually implemented. And this is to expand the immigration levy payer base. And that is very, very clear in the bill, that it will have to be justified to which groups this expansion can be done to. And this kind of levies, through regulation that the minister can make, will have to be justified on the basis of the link. As it says, if other people are benefiting from that, then they will be included in that levy payer base. For example, if an employer is bringing somebody from overseas and that person comes on a temporary work visa, that person can become that expanded group. Or if it is some education providers, those who provide education, those who are signatory providers are providing education to international fee-paying students, they can be included in that group. So minister will have to justify the linkage before that expansion can be done. Coming to other issues, Mr. Speaker, as this bill is making several changes, and I want to touch on only a few in the limited time that I have. Migrant exploitation is a very, very big issue. It's a very serious issue, and it happens in so many different forms. And some of the forms are visible, some of the forms are still invisible. And we become aware of these different forms of migrant exploitation only when somebody comes forward. So I really want to commend each and every individual who has come forward and shared their stories of migrant exploitation. And it's because of those stories we are able to make the changes we are making through this legislation. Just, Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago or so, we were seeing so many stories of people coming to New Zealand, packed in a small house, like 10, 15 people packed in a house. They landed here in New Zealand and straight away they were told that they don't have any employment. So it wasn't that they had a dodgy employer, but the employer actually didn't exist, the employment didn't exist. And many of these people shared the stories that they paid money to get this employment here in New Zealand, which actually doesn't exist. So this kind of situation, Mr. Speaker, we know it is a migrant exploitation, but now what this bill does is it takes care of people, those who are doing this kind of activity offshore for New Zealand-based employment offers, and it also takes care of anything that is any kind of premium that is charged before the employment commences. And these changes will ensure that people understand that we are taking it very, very seriously. This is going to be introduced as a new offence through this legislation. Mr. Speaker, we also know that sometimes when the applications are processed, people come into our country and we believe them that they are going to be the kind of citizens or the residents we want in New Zealand. But sometimes we may find later on that these people are actually risks to the security of our country, and actions needs to be taken. And if these individuals have residence class visa, then the minister having the ability to revoke the residence class visa actually is going to be a really good message, a strong message to such individuals if they decide to take up activities which pose risk to our country. And very clearly it has been said that if we consider that there is going to be threat for them in their own country, they won't be deported straight away, but they will lose the rights of being residents here with the minister revoking residence class visa for such individuals. And Mr. Speaker, with that, I would say that this is a good bill and we support this bill and commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
The Honourable Katie Costello.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak in support of the Immigration, Fiscal Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill at its first reading. This bill delivers on a key component of our coalition agreement and party values in strengthening protections that ensure our immigration system serves the needs of our country and the needs of those who are migrating to New Zealand. This is a complex piece of legislation in that there is a lot of moving parts, but at its core it is a simple recognition that we can do better. It respects the importance and value of immigration to New Zealand and our economy. It respects the contribution that our migrant population pays to New Zealand. And it does this by providing some protections, some fundamental protections around the area of exploitation, which is an area I have worked significantly in and recognise the incredible harm that it does not only to the individuals but to our reputation as a country. So the more that we can do to make this legislation workable, practical and fiscally sustainable is really important as we move forward to achieve the targets we have as a government for our economy. The bill creates a number of changes and arrangements, but I would applaud most importantly the priority that has given to Victoria Casey KC and Michael Heron KC's recommendations. These have taken some time to be fully addressed and worked through, and I think the bill does an enormous service to ensure that those key recommendations are addressed through this piece of legislation. I'd also recognise the tidying up around the mass arrival definition, and there has been some debate previously around mass arrivals in this House, and I think it's important to recognise that having a robust definition as well as a process for managing mass arrivals is actually about protection again. It's about protection for those that are vulnerable. It allows us an opportunity to provide some support, some services, and to ensure that no matter how you arrive, which is what this is trying to address, whether it is on illegal means or whether it's through commercial services, that we have the ability to manage those arrivals and do it efficiently and effectively. The bill, as has been mentioned, also provides the ability to cancel resident visas for security risks. And again, this is about the credibility of our immigration system to ensure that New Zealanders can have good faith in our immigration system, and that when there is security risks, when there is vulnerabilities created, in order to protect the reputation of those enormous number of immigrants that have now calling New Zealand home, that we aren't allowing their place in our society to be in any way discredited because we have migrants that we are unable to manage when security risks occur. So I think there is a lot of moving parts in this legislation. It will be an important piece of work for the Education and Workforce Committee to work through. I think there is an enormous benefit to us as a country to have these legislative changes that makes ensure that our future in immigration is supported by really good, robust legislation, that we have the ability to manage any risks that arise in this space, but also we have the ability in balancing that to ensure that we have all the protections in place for those who may be victimised through the very immigration system that we have introduced into this country. So I have no hesitation at all on behalf of New Zealand First to commend this legislation to the House. Thank you.
Speeches, not exactly surprised how that went.
I mean,
it was very on par with both ACT and New Zealand First.
Oh, you
go
go,
ahead, Frankie.
You go.
No, you go.
I haven't seen a suit with shoulder pads since the 80s. I just want to big ups for that. And if you've seen Jim and the Misfits, same here, everything. So it was like going back in time, but also I listened. So yeah, no surprises there. I think when they say they get to manage, they're going to get to say, yeah, you've got money to pay in and you don't. That's how I see that going, but that's my opinion.
I think Casey wears that because of her body shape.
The shoulder.
So it makes her body. So wearing it makes her body look a bit more uniform and doesn't look as big as she is.
But the hair, Sam. What's the deal
hair,
with
man?
that? What's that for? Well, I mean,
it's the sheer police officer look as being an ex-cop.
Honestly, I can't take anyone seriously.
I'm going to go full geek here. Okay, I love DC Comics. I love to read them. I read them very bigly. But
how
yes,
much hairspray is that getting into the ozone layer? That's what I want. I want to know how many bird life or fish or anything are dying because of that amount of hairspray in the ozone.
I don't know.
Yeah,
she's cosplaying as Amanda Waller from
I mean, that hair does feel quite 80s, but it does also feel a bit sheer as well. From one of her hairstyles, I think it's from the Turn Back Time music video.
It's like hologram. It's like party and business at the same time. What's going on? It's just too much.
I thought she was cosplaying as Amanda Waller from DC Comics.
Yeah, she's an ex-cop. Now, do you remember when Greg O'Connor used to be the president of the Police Association, which is the police's union? One of his vice presidents was Casey Costello. Now, Greg O'Connor was in the role for over 20 years and would have had multiple ones, but Casey Costello was at one stage alongside Greg. But
you can tell I'm going to go peak geek here, but Greg O'Connor, he looks like fucking Cecil from Invincible. Sorry, just gonna put that out there. He looks like Cecil from Invincible. He's got the red tie and everything.
Miami Vice. This is Aotearoa. Let me understand that. Wow, I'm surprised. Yeah, she's got a lot of flair.
Put it this way: when the Port Waikato by-election happened, I was rooting for Casey to win.
I'm sorry. I think it's time to wrap up the show.
Okay, so the bills that we have that are coming for legislations to put your submissions on. We got the Missing the F Financial Markets Conduct of Institutions Amendment Duty to Provide Financial Services Amendment Bill. I think that's the one that Uncle Andy is doing on behalf of Winnie. Closes this Friday the 4th of July. Ironically, a very good date. The Public Finances Amendment Bill closes on Monday the 7th of July. The Climate Change Response Emissions Trading Scheme Forestry Conversion Amendment Bill closes on Monday the 7th of July. Oh, that's a very short select committee time. Inquiries into the port and maritime sector closes Sunday the 13th of July. The Financial Service Providers Registration Disputes Resolutions Amendment Bill closes on Monday the 23rd of June. The Overseas Investments National Interest Test and Other Matters Amendment Bill closes Wednesday the 23rd of July. The Games of Animal Council's Herd of Special Interest Amendment Bill closes on Thursday the 24th of July. And the Immigration, Fiscal, Sustainability, Systems Integrity Bill closes on Monday the 28th of July, which is the bill we've just talked about.
Fantastic. So that's it from us. Poor Maria, everyone.
Poor
Yeah,
Marty.
and make sure you stay for post-show chats when
Of
we
course.
catch up.
I'm very tired, but
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you guys back next Sunday, covering more footage of what happened this week, just been in Parliament.
Poor Marty.
Thank you for watching The Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/it'sintheballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions, live at 8 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time every